thesis. And we basically have to talk about it and discuss it. Now, I've already come up with our driving question. So, it is, how do societal gender roles manifest themselves in games and contribute to the evolution of video game objectives and genres? That's the question. Now, what I need from you guys is evidence to answer this question effectively. And we will present it at the convention.
You know what? I have a perfect source. I remember reading this essay written from Henry Jenkins. It's called From Barbie to Mortal Kombat. And it explained how usually games that girls like to play are like more adventurous and they like to explore the world, where guy games are usually about, you know, action, just going out and usually shooting someone or, I don't know, just crazy. Another thing is, usually this is what Jenkins said, usually guy games also, you have to eliminate your enemies, and that's how you usually win the game, or that's become successful throughout the game. Where usually girls, they like to, you know, make friends and build a community. Yeah, that's what I found out of that source.
You know, actually, I think I read that paper too. I remember to follow up, I think what he said was that guys tend to go just from, guy games tend to be more focused on going from point A to point B, while girl games let you explore around more. Well, besides that, there's also the fact that in games that are aimed more towards guys are larger than life, and it's sort of this sort of more. It's just a larger than life video game. While games more focused to females are more realistic based, more like your everyday.
So, this Jenkins guy really seems to know what he's talking about. Does anybody else have any sources from him that could give us any help whatsoever on answering this training question? Sal, I'm looking at you. What do you got?
Well, Matthew, these guys' sources, they don't answer the driving question. That's a problem. I can fix that problem. Jenkins, the complete freedom of movement, in his source, he explains that he's nostalgic for his childhood. Point number one. And he describes how boyhood culture was much different than what it is today. Do you know why?
Why?
Because back then, boys were able to explore out in the open range.
It's true. Dude, how did we not see this?
I know.
But now...
You're on a roll, Sal. Keep going.
But now, in this world, video games are that culture.
Yeah.
It's... Go ahead, Chippy.
Yeah, but how does this deal with girls? Because I mean, the driving.
I'm getting there. Looking at you, Matthew.
Gotta hear this.
So, we see this transition from back then to now. And well, this translation of gender roles, of guys being adventurous beings, translate into the video games that they play, open world, linear gameplay, point A through point B, what Carlos and Santizo were talking about.
All right, that was a great point, Sal. JP, can you elaborate on the girl side of that?
Yeah, so, like Sal said, in like 1920s, girls had a more domestic view, Matthew. You know, they were normally the house takers. They never really went out much. Some people, like, they didn't really have any rights. They were fighting for the rights at the 1920s. They got the right to vote, thanks to FDR, after a while, though. He didn't really want to give them the right to vote. But I think it's important to note the fact that during the 1970s and 1980s, there was another civil rights movement for women, and I think that now has affected video games more than we can ever imagine. Because during that time, they actually won and they became considered more equal. And so now the gender roles are becoming almost the same. We have stay-at-home dads now, where back in the 1920s, there's no such thing as a stay-at-home dad. The dad was always working. But now, dads can stay at home, and moms can be working all the time. They can be the main breadwinner. So seeing as the gender roles are getting so close to being the same that we can't differentiate, it's unleashed this new genre of gender-neutral games that hasn't been seen before in the first games that released in the 1970s. So Matthew, what do you think we should do next? I mean, we know what we're gonna talk about, but don't you think we need some like games to show how these gender roles are influenced?
Definitely. I think the best way for us to research and construct our thesis is to play some video games.
Yes,
Let's
I
go.
agree. Yeah. Video games. Woo. Dude, I'm so excited. Hey guys, I was just playing a game of Spore, and something popped up that's pretty interesting. Found out that the success for the game is very neutral-based. For example, I remember Jenkins saying that games that girls like to play, in order to be successful, you must build success through development of friendships. And as you see here, it says that in order to be successful, you have to build relationships with other species. Much like games that boys like to play, success comes through the elimination of competitors. And now here it says, forcing them to become extinct. So I have an option of either building relationships or eliminating my predators. It's very cool.
Yes, Atizo, I think you have a good point. I think Spore is really a gender-neutral game. Earlier you were playing, I noticed that the setting can be as realistic as you want it, and you can go around and survive. But I also noticed that you can also create your own world where the environment is large and you're the alpha creature. This goes hand in hand with what Jakin said, which was typical girl games feature real-life, everyday settings, as well as new places to explore, such as you're doing right now. You're trying to survive in a world. Or, like you were playing earlier, the world features non-realistic large-in-life settings where your creature was dominating everyone in this world. And so this two different play styles really makes this game a gender-neutral video game.
Yeah, you guys have really valid points about this game and how it relates to what Jenkins' main points. Another thing I saw is how Santizo's playing right now. Like, he's doing everything. He's exploring. He's getting immersed in the story. I mean, look at that weird creature. It's like he's trying to befriend it. I mean, he's trying to have this immersion into this game, into being a real creature. Now, if he wanted to, he can just cut through and evolve all the way. He doesn't have to spend time making these friends with these weird, funny-looking things. I mean, come on. That's pretty weird, right? Well, Santizo, I think you're doing a pretty good job in this game, you know, trying to make friends and not killing everything and trying to get to the end. You're really playing it for what it's worth.
I agree with that point you had, JP. This game doesn't incorporate the idea. Of a neutral style of playing. For example, it incorporates the idea of a typical girl game where you would go around, exploring and having new experiences. Where there's a style where there's more than one way to play. While it also incorporates the idea of a guide style, a game which is focused more on guys, which would typically have you go from point A to point B.
Hey Matthew, how are you doing? Nothing. We're just playing some video games over here, you know, man. It's just hanging out, you know, playing some Spore, playing that awesome club game. You guys thought it was awesome, right?
Dude, it was awesome.
What game are you playing? Black Ops 2. Oh my god, dude,
10 out of 10 on Metacritic.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Alright, man. Well, you have fun playing Black Ops 2. We'll catch you on the flip side, alright?
See ya, Matt.
Bye.
Alright, see ya, Matthew.
Oh yeah. Time to play my favorite game. Cookie Mama on the Nintendo DS is a game where all you do is cook. So, this is considered to be a very stereotypical girl game. You can see here. So, basically the goal of this game is to just learn how to cook. And there's no way to beat the game. See if you can see here when I'm doing this cooking. So, unlike boy games where you have to explore and go on missions and kill bad guys and stuff. The goal of this game is to just learn how to cook. There are varying degrees of success and there's different outcomes, but there's really no way to, quote-unquote, beat the game. Also, the game is very just an everyday life sort of game. It features everyday real life settings as well as new places to explore. You can just see here, I'm just doing different steps to make this recipe. So, there's not really a bad guy, there's no antagonist, there's no princess you have to save or mission you have to go on. You're just performing everyday tasks.
Yo, Matthew! Hey, Matthew! Matthew! Hey, Matt, what you doing?
Hey guys!
Hey.
Come in!
Dude, what's up?
Not much. What's up, guys? Alright. So, got the Black Ops 2 like I said I would?
Yeah.
Hey, man, you know...
I brought the cookies.
Oh yeah! It's a party!
Alright, guys, but you know what? I think it's time to play some old video games and see how they appeal to different genders. I mean, come on, we gotta do this.
Right, I mean we should just look at throughout history all the different gender games. So, I actually did prepare for that, JP, and BAM!
What's this?
It is what I like to call Legend of Zelda.
Oh,
Dude.
I've heard of that.
1986 Nintendo. So now we're getting into the 80s. So this is what I think of when I think of guy games. Alright? So let's take a look at the many different aspects that make this a stereotypical, according to Jenkins, guy game. So I'll give the first one. Just look at how you start off. You go in this cave. Your mission is to rescue the princess. You pick up a sword, and you just go on your merry way. So we'll see right now. See? You got your weapon. They give you a weapon. You go out, and you just explore. So this is the adventurous aspect that ties in with the gender roles that Jenkins was talking about. You can see here I'm just playing as a little elf boy.
Yeah, and I can see that you're just taking out people instead of like making friends. I mean, is that what you mean saving the princess is by eliminating all your opponents?
Right, yeah, and you got your one objective like we're talking about. There's just one mission, rescue the princess.
What does
at
that
all
say
costs.
about the princess?
That actually reinforces the gender roles that girls were supposed to stay at home, be domestic workers. I mean, the princess isn't, a domestic wife, but she's pictured as a helpless, being that the male has to save. Kind of like if you guys have played the other game, Super Mario Brothers, it's the same thing. Mario has to rescue the Princess Peach.
It seems to me like this is a very unrealistic world, I mean, it seems more like a map, like it's set up like a map rather than like an actual world, like a real life setting.
Look at those monsters, like
yeah, they're like spinning drills that live in the ground. I mean, what's that? What's up with that?
Right. I mean, you got that other unrealistic, out of this world, like fantasy adventure, which you think would be girls, but guys seem to enjoy more. This was targeted more toward the boys. You can tell that the boy gamers seem to enjoy more exploring, and that also goes back to kind of what Jenkins was talking about. What other aspects do you guys see in here? See, I'm about to go in this dungeon and fight a boss, so...
Mainly just that there's, just point A to point B, one way to win. Also, it's a very action-y game, sometimes, like right now, it seems pretty fast-paced. You gotta watch all your sides. You have to make sure you don't get hit and just kill them while you're doing all that. So it seems like a very action, fast-paced game, which Jenkins said guys like.
You gotta eliminate your competitors, and that's the only way to win, to kill people.
I was also looking at, you have life points. I mean, what happens when you die?
Oh, you restart.
Restart?
Yeah, at the beginning of the dungeon.
That's pretty unrealistic, too. I mean, like the fact that you have unlimited lives.
Right. I mean, this is very much unlike the girl game where what happens when you fail, you get to keep going. There's not really a punishment for losing. I'll show you guys right now. Like, watch. I'm about to die. My character dies, disappears, game over. I mean, you hardly saw anything like that in what we consider to be girl games, like Cookie Mama, for instance, which is a game.
Do you have any games that would be considered girl games for them?
Actually, I do. Alright guys, well I don't have any old games on me that were really girl games because the market wasn't that big back then, so I had to emulate a game. So this is Barbie on the NES. This is 1991. So the 90s...
That seems kind of late
Yeah.
to be making girl games.
Exactly. Well, it's actually early for making girl games because this is one of the first few recorded kind of attempts at making a girl game. So why don't we check it out and see whether this is an accurate representation of the gender roles.
And it's funny that you say they're trying to make it a girl game when it still looks pretty similar. You're moving left to right.
Right. So there's definitely those aspects of the guy game where you're going from point A to point B, but you know, I mean, just look at the design. I mean, you're playing as Barbie, one of the most iconic, you know, girl toys items. I mean, when you think what do girls play with, oh, you think Barbie. So I think they tried really hard at trying to market this at girls by stereotyping the gender roles, which we referred to, and just saying, oh, girls just like to play with dolls. So why don't we make a game where they play as the doll? So
And the enemies are
just like normal
things, everyday things, and
Like,
they're not
look,
really
it's like
baseball.
volleyballs, you know, badminton.
I mean,
Tennis
you
ball.
are,
They're unthreatening things.
but you are using friends to help you out instead of eliminating your predators. I
You're
mean,
using that toucan and
Yeah.
the dog.
And I mean, if you look at the general design, I'm not killing anything. I'm not like jumping on the balls and they're disappearing. I'm just avoiding them. So that's really kind of the message they're trying to send to this through this game, is that it's better to avoid conflict, which is, you know, something we teach both guys and girls, but girls more in general. So you can definitely see where they're trying to appeal to girls by saying, and also just to stereotype the gender roles by saying, oh, conflict is bad. Let's just do this. Let's just keep going around, making friends. Oh, look at this. This is a boss. And the boss is
It's just spitting out
it's just spitting out balls. It doesn't look threatening.
and
it's
your
just-
attack is a kitten.
I'm using a cat to help me. I don't
So there's that
see-
cooperative aspect.
Right, there's a cooperative aspect, but I mean, if you just look at it, it's not threatening. This isn't an... I wouldn't call this an action game. Alright guys, so enough of playing these games. The convention is tomorrow, and the last thing we need to do is come up with a thesis that summarizes everything we've learned from playing these games and how it correlates with gender roles. So, what do you guys got?
Alright, well, I got that throughout the 20th century, in respect to women and how video game makers were appealing to them, that they appeal to their gender roles, as we've seen in Barbie and Cookie Mama, that just they're enforcing the gender role that they were domestic and supposed to stay at home. They weren't supposed to go on really adventures.
So what I saw was the opposite of that aspect for guys. That this game was sort of enforcing the idea that they should go out and adventure, and they should by implanting these ideas in the games, going from point A to point B, and then also having this idea of being having larger than life aspects.
I like what Carlos and JP are saying. They're basically saying that all these gender roles, you know, the guy going out, and the woman having a more domestic role in video games, that really shows itself in the video games we were playing, such as Barbie having the really not threatening enemies, and all these and basically reinforcing all that domesticity in that woman. And for Legend of Zelda, what we were playing first, it was a really, you know, point A to point B, a really manly type game, you could say, and those gender roles are clearly present in these early games.
But however, you see a change in the way games are made. An example, you saw it in the game Spore, where it's a game made in 2003, so in the 21st century, how you had options. You had options to eliminate your predators against, you can make friends, or there's a realistic world where you're doing everyday things like feeding yourself, or going out and making friends, or you also can just think it's unrealistic in your mind and just play a game where you're playing with monsters. So I really think that we're changing the way we want to play games, also because the way we are, in a way, we're always fighting for equality, and now boys and girls want to play together, and now we want to socialize. And now there's instead of playing games where you do one objective, you have many options to do anything. And I really, it's really been it's a really strong change that we're seeing here with these games, especially in the 21st century.
Alrighty, guys. So I really liked what you guys all kind of got from this, and I think that it's great that it's all different points that we can put together. So I think I've come up with the perfect thesis statement. So you guys ready to hear this? So basically,
Lay it on me.
throughout the 20th century, societal gender roles have relegated women to the role of domestic workers, while also supporting the idea that men are responsible for exploring the outside world and that they must be brave and adventurous in doing so. This has a correlating effect on the types of video games, as well as their genres and objectives, that are created and marketed to both genders, as they have become a reinforcement of these stereotypes, as well as a representation of the evolution in both video games and gender roles. However, as the 21st century progresses, there seems to be an increasing interest in creating video games that combine these two gender roles into a market that appeals to both genders. And this has come as a result of, as Santizo was saying, an increasing demand for gender equality.
I like it. You know what, guys? This is perfect. This is cool. You know what? It's time to celebrate.
Yeah! By what? Yeah! Doing what?
Playing video games.
Yeah!
Started.
Let's go.
No Barbie?
Alright, here.
Cookie Mama? I mean, Call of Duty. Yeah.
Call of Duty, yeah!